Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our final episode of Let's Talk the Winchesters. With me again is Carla from Carla Astrology. Hi.
Hey.
And today, since we didn't do an episode for the last episode, second to last, we're going to put two episodes in this together. So, episode 12 and 13. And so, let's just go over the two episodes really quick. And then we're going to talk about all the things that we think that make sense, make no sense, or everything in between. Okay, so episode 12 is called The Tears of a Clown. So here, the gang is working a case that involves missing people, and they find out it has something to do with carnival and with a specific clown. And Mary, she gets trapped first by the clown while they investigate. John, Carlos, and Lata try to go after her, get trapped as well. And Mary got kind of changed by the clown into a clown herself. John also fell into the trap and got changed as well. So Carlos and Lata were the ones who kind of had to save the day. And it was with the help of a young boy that was one of the victims who then kind of started to remember who he is. Oh, hi, April. And with the help of him, they were able to get the victims to remember and eventually defeat the clown, shatter the whole thing, and the victims were free. And while all of that happened, Ada, she was on a mission to find some more magic to defeat the Akrita. So she went into this place where the witches were holding some kind of secret, like poker game, but they don't play with cards; they play with magic.
Yeah.
And so the witches that were there were very seasoned witches, very experienced, and they were not very impressed by Ada, especially since Ada was working just, like natural kind of magic, like nature based
Yep.
stuff, earth magic. And yeah, that was for them. It looked like they made her feel like she's like a bloody beginner compared to those witches that are probably a few hundred years old, some of them. So they didn't take her seriously at all. They let her join the game. Ada lost, and so they basically kicked her out. And on her way out, she was stopped by none other than Rowena, our favorite witch. But Rowena, she gave her some fake story that she actually, like the Men of Letters, they still owe her a book that they took from her. And so she just wanted to get access to the clubhouse, turns out. But in the end, she gave Ada a crystal to defeat the Akrita queen. The catch was that it can only be operated if the person using it puts in a piece of human soul. And so that would have meant that if Ada wanted to use it, she would have to give up a piece of her soul. And that, for them, and that supernatural lore meant that slowly after that, the rest of the soul would fade away as well. So she would have ended up kind of like Donatello or Sam at some point without a soul. And yeah, so Rowena was there for all of maybe 5 minutes, if that was even that much. So that was a bit of a letdown. I was expecting a little more, especially since they were teasing that so much.
No.
But yeah, and she also so Rowena knew about the Men of Letters. So she had that knowledge. She probably ran into them along her many years of existing on this planet. And yeah, well, in the end, she helped, like she always does. But yeah, for me, it was just a little bit too short. Like no real interaction. And she was only interacting with Ada. She didn't meet Mary and John. There was no connection. So
Yeah.
But then again, I guess it makes sense because Rowena never mentioned to Sam and Dean that she knew the parents. So
Right.
I guess it makes sense. What did you think about that episode?
I was disappointed too because I just thought maybe she might have been part of the the plot, but not really. She had her own agenda, obviously, which personally, I don't think we're ever going to find out about it.
Yeah. Well, she did mention that she was looking for her son at that point still.
Oh,
So,
right. Yeah, she
yeah.
did. Yeah. Okay.
So she was looking for Crowley, who back in the 70s was still just a regular crossroads demon making deals for people's souls.
Yeah.
And so she hadn't found him yet. He was not king of hell at that point.
Right.
So yeah,
I
she
forgot about that. Yeah.
she was looking for him. Okay, then on to episode 13, the finale. That one was called Hey, That's No Way to Say Goodbye. So we start the episode with a flashback to the moment when Dean gave John the letter of Henry. And Bobby was there too at the bus station. So we already get a hint as to who that version of Dean is and when he's from. Because Bobby mentions something about one last hunt and that he's going to go and get the cavalry. So Mary is talking to her dad, who is now back as well. And it turns out that even though she got accepted to college, she seems to have thrown that idea overboard. College is not on her mind anymore. She still wants to leave hunting, but that's as far as it goes. She doesn't know what the future holds for her. So, yeah. Samuel tells Mary about this hunter named Joan who reached out to him and who says that she has some intel on the Queen and that she wants to talk to Samuel about it. So Samuel, Mary, and John, they go there to check it out at this diner. And then it turns out that Joan is actually, in fact, the Queen, and everyone else in the diner is Akrita. So this was a trap that she lured them in, and she makes a move on Mary and John. She wants those two to join her cause, her pack, whatever you want to call that. And when they decline, she reveals that this whole meeting was just to distract them so that in the meantime, others could get into the clubhouse where Lata is still left behind. And so she actually gets to Lata. She has the Akrita take over Lata's body. And when the others get back to the clubhouse, Lata then threatens, or the Akrita Lata threatens to kill the human Lata if she doesn't get what she wants or what the Queen wants. And in that moment, Ada then decides to use the crystal. She says the Latin word that activates the whole thing. So she gives up a piece of her soul. And Lata, or the Akrita inside of Lata, just drops dead. So now their big secret weapon has been used on one single Akrita to save the friend. And they're kind of back to square one now. But Joan also mentioned that she actually came across the stranger and his car, that she opened a portal and she threw Dean and Baby into the portal, saying that no human is ever going to survive that. And here we get another hint, because since Dean somehow has to come back, otherwise the show would be over, and there's no point in it. So we get another hint. He's not human.
Right.
So that only leaves one conclusion. He's dead.
Yes.
And we now know when he's from. It's from after he died.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out Millie was able to fix the box that transports things to other places. And Joan, she gave the team the journal that Dean had with him. And they used that journal, put it on the box, and then sent it off into wherever, hoping that they would somehow be able to open a portal and to get the stranger back. And even though Dean didn't come through, Baby did. So they then took a ride in Baby, and they went to the final battle which was basically just a handful of people in a dark street at midnight, kind of. And so, yeah, it was, I think, Carlos and Samuel and John. They were actually like sword fighting some of the Akrita. And the girls were inside the car. Mary made Millie and Lata get out, and Ada. And she then took baby and drove full speed ahead, like into the Queen. She opened a portal, and then baby smashed into the Queen. They went into the portal, and everything gone.
Yep.
So that was the big fight. Like, we have been building up all the way, like 13 seasons, for Mary to crash into her, and that's it. It was as simple as a car accident.
Yeah.
Really? Because it's like, So, yeah, like that big, like defeating something that they have been building up in Supernatural for a long time, and like even the final fight with Chuck and Sam and Dean and Jack and everything, that took an entire episode, and here we get like 1 minute of the final fight.
I know.
I think I've expressed throughout our little show here my disappointment, and it hasn't gone any better.
No.
So then that's over, but the portal opens again, and out comes baby with Dean, and he has Mary in the car as well. So Mary is safe. Dean returns her to John, and then he gives his big explanation of who he actually, who he is, and that he was, that he's actually dead. And while he was in the afterlife cruising around with his car, he kind of took a detour, went through the multiverse, and he was looking for all the different versions of his family to find out if any of them actually found happiness, or if all of them were kind of by this whole hunter lifestyle kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, when Mary asked him, well, did you find one? And he's like, I think I did. So with that, we also know that all the other versions are basically doing the same hunting thing as well. And yeah, the happy ending doesn't seem to be in the future for any Winchesters, except for maybe Sam, as we know.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, and then also Bobby comes back, and the cavalry is Jack. So
yes.
God Jack. And Dean apologizes to Jack, and he's like, I know I wasn't supposed to do anything, and, not get in between and not change anything and stuff like that. And Jack looks kind of like, that was the one thing that was really nice to see, that Jack now, like, the roles had switched. Dean was the one asking for forgiveness, like the child, and Jack now acted like the father, and he was having that look of disappointment, like, child, I gave you the rules. Why did you go against me? But then he turned out to be that loving, forgiving father, and so he actually gave something to Dean that he then went over to John and Mary. And so Dean gave his journal to John and said, every hunter has a journal. This is mine. I hope this helps. And then he gave something to Mary, and he said, if you ever come across a yellow-eyed demon, use this. And it was the Colt from Samuel Colt. So now he kind of made sure that the whole deal with Azazel doesn't really happen, and that his family, actually we now know they're not his parents, that this version of his parents actually has a shot at a real life, a happy life, one without monsters preferably.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, that was basically the whole build up and everything. So we are left with the ending of that. Mary is then deciding to really leave, and John is going to stay behind at first, but then she comes and picks him up and says, you know what, I can go and find who I am with you by my side. You can do your hunting thing, I do my whatever I do, and we can still figure this out together. So John actually leaves with her. They go on this big trip, and it looks like the gang is still working cases together. Now Millie is kind of working with them. But yeah, that's the end of that.
Yeah.
What did you think of that episode?
Well, I thought that it was like too long played out, and then at the end, I was happy to see Jack and the whole gang that was at that point or whatever, the cavalry.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of it was just kind of,
Yeah.
It's kind of like what you had said earlier. It's like it's hard to build on that because it's
Yeah.
a whole other timeline.
It's like, for me, the main problem with this entire show was the fact that the people who play John and Mary have no on-screen chemistry. And it was supposed to be the love story of John and Mary. Where's the love story? They had one episode where they were kind of, like actually in love, and that was the one with the vampires.
Yeah.
Where John got bitten. But other than that, they have been so distant and kind of cold with each other in a way. Like, I didn't see any love story. I mean, professionalism, that's all good and well, but still, I mean, even with all the hunting, Sam and Dean always found time to be brothers, to be family.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And there's just like, for me, I said this before, and I stand by it, Carlos is the most interesting character of that show.
I agree.
And I think one thing that was also difficult for me to kind of, like, they established multiple people as the main characters. I guess Ada and Millie were more like the side characters, and they had 4 main characters. And I think that's just too much. It's just like the focus point is kind of missing.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And there's other things that don't make sense, especially now that we, like, this whole time we thought that this is the same Earth that Sam and Dean are from, but it's not. It's a different world. So something that I was thinking about, like, Chuck, God, he created the multiverse. So that means he created that world as well. And we have heard in the show from Joan, who was the queen, that Chuck, or some guy who created the universe, he also created the Akrita, because when she came there, she knew that they were, like, they had a mission, a purpose, and Dean confirmed that the Akrita have been created by Chuck God in case he ever fails or gets defeated, so that they would then destroy everything if he doesn't have the chance to do it himself. That was their entire purpose. Yeah. And that was without the queen, though. Like, the queen came into the picture later, and they then decided to follow her instead of waiting around for day X that may or may never come. And so the queen took over and had her own agenda. Right. But in this whole, like, with the Winchesters, we're still in 1972.
Right.
And Dean, the whole supernatural story took place from 2005 to 2019. So I'm guessing the timing is pretty much the same on each different planet. So Dean traveled to another world and back in time at the same time, because since he's dead, he can move to wherever, whenever.
Right. Yeah.
But since Chuck is the one who created everything, he can also look into everything. And I'm guessing if something like that is going on, like they're trying to defeat the Akrita are making a move, I believe that Chuck would be very much aware of that, and he would at the very least be watching. So when then the Akrita get defeated once again, and this time probably for good, and then all of a sudden Dean and Jack show up, and it's very obvious that Jack is the one in charge, I believe Chuck would have then known what happens.
Right.
And so a lot of the stuff that we then know from the finale of Supernatural, this doesn't match once again.
Yeah, they could have explained it a lot better if that was the
Yeah,
case.
because then Chuck would have known that Jack would be the biggest threat to him,
Mhm.
not Sam and Dean, not any other monsters he ever created, and
Right.
that since Dean is already dead, all of that must have happened, and Chuck is not around anymore, and Jack took over. So he would have had to nip that whole thing in the butt before it even happened.
Right.
But he didn't do it. So here is some inconsistency for me in the story,
Uh-huh.
because even though Chuck was an idiot, he is still God, and he created everything, and he knows everything
Right.
because he can watch every world, like switching channels, and he knows all of that. Even though Sam and Dean, like on our Earth, so to speak, or their Earth, were his favorites. But he would definitely know if something as that, like opening a portal, high energy, Akrita, and all that stuff was going on, and
But
every time they were fighting big battles, he would know.
yeah, but when wasn't Chuck destroyed in the Supernatural series?
Yeah, but in the year 2019.
Right, but he didn't exist in time. He was God, so he was the ultimate creator. So if he was taken out, he was probably, this is just what I was thinking when you were explaining that. Maybe if he was taken out and then Jack was replaced him, he replaced him on every, you know what I mean, every
Yeah,
timeline. So but the thing of it is
but
they just didn't
yeah,
explain it.
but the way that Dean was talking, he was talking about Chuck and God, and they were like, okay. So in their world, God still existed as Chuck.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're right. He did say that. So yeah. Yeah,
So
that definitely doesn't add up
that's
then.
that's just like it's a nice thought to kind of combine those kind of things, but really the inconsistencies with this are just too much for me.
Yeah.
And then like yeah, selling this whole thing as a love story when there's no love story to be seen,
Uh-uh.
and making this the story of Sam and Dean's parents when it's actually not even Sam and Dean's parents, or at
Right.
least not the ones that we know. So the whole marketing thing was even leading us down a completely wrong path. And yeah, at this point, there's still no update whether or not this show will get picked up for a second season. The showrunner, Robbie Thompson, he's still hinting at stuff, and it sounds like the CW, which has been bought, well, 75% of the CW has been bought by Nextstar, and they're still deciding very carefully which shows they're going to renew. And they have canceled a lot of stuff, like things like Nancy Drew and some other stuff. So well-known established characters, like those shows have already been canceled. And I read that there were only 2 slots remaining for these kind of scripted shows to be continued. And they're still like kind of talking. And the way that it sounded was that the Winchester people are kind of shopping around for some other streaming platform, for some other place to pick it up, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And we can take a quick look at the ratings. So here, the smaller column on the right next to me is from the Winchesters from that show, and the bigger one is from the last season of Supernatural. So here we can see that when Supernatural went into the last season, they started with 1.3 million people as viewers for the first episode, and the finale they had 1.325 when they started, and they ended with 1.379. So towards the finale, they got a few more viewers than they started with. In between, it kind of went up and down, which is kind of expected. But
Right.
when we look at the Winchesters, they already started with only 0.7, what is
Oh,
it?
jeez.
78
Yeah.
million viewers.
Yeah.
So that's like almost half, well, a little bit more than half of what they finished with. And we can now see by the end, like the finale didn't even have as many people watching it as the last episode with Rowena in it.
Yeah. Wow.
And I was expecting that to go a very different way because they have always said that Dean would explain everything in the finale.
Yeah.
And it would get like the big conclusion and everything would be tied together and Dean will make an appearance and other supernatural people will make an appearance. Oh my god, English. And so it seems like that's not even enough to get people to care anymore. And I looked at the numbers. The finale episode, if you rank them from most watched to least watched, the finale is in position number 8 when
Wow.
you look at all the numbers. So it's not even the favorite episode or anything. Like the pilot is still the most watched,
Yeah.
but the finale is at number 8 out of 13. So I don't really see the CW network or Nexstar picking this up at all.
Yeah.
So I guess their only chance really is to find a different streaming platform to continue this on. But I don't know. I mean, with everything that's happening in the economy all around us, and they've already tried to be probably as low budget as they can because we
Right.
didn't really get to see a lot of like CGI effects or stuff. Like there was some, but not as much as Supernatural. At least that's what I thought when I watched it.
Yeah.
So I can't really see this going anywhere. And it doesn't seem to have the big fan base that a show, for example, like Lucifer. Like when Lucifer got canceled after season 3, it was, I believe, Netflix that picked it up because the fans started huge, like, hashtag bring Lucifer back and kind of stuff. And Netflix picked it up and gave us another 3 seasons and a good ending and all of it, wrapped it up in a nice bow. And here, I mean, the last episode was already kind of like, this is it. Because, yeah, like, they're gone. They have their trip now. They're starting their lives, and so if Mary and John now came back, it would have been all for nothing. Like, what's the point of Mary trying to get out of hunting if they come back? Yeah. And they're also not going to make a show without Mary and John, just the other people hunting. Yeah. And I don't think anyone is going to watch the Winchesters if Mary and John are simply playing house.
Yeah,
it's a show about monsters and supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
So they kind of already finished it themselves.
Yes, I think so. I think so too.
So
you know what's interesting though?
What?
You know, they talked about, or Dean called it Earth 32 or whatever you were mentioning that.
I think I called it that. Just like out of the million worlds that exist.
So they do that with like Flash and Superman, and those are, I think those are the ones that they're keeping.
Yeah. So, well, they've also already been canned, all of them.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, jeez.
They're on their last breath.
Yeah, it would be the last.
A lot of the superhero stuff is gone.
Yeah.
They're not keeping that anymore.
Yeah, the timeline shit. I like the timeline, the multiverse stuff, but I can't understand why they would want to do that with the Winchesters, or Supernatural.
It seems like the whole, like, the Winchesters concept was always geared towards a different audience and not so much catering to the original Supernatural fans, even though they kind of built on that. Yeah. But if you compare it to something like The Flash or they were definitely going in a different direction, trying to be more modern and with the time and all of that. But no, if you have an established thing, stick with it or make something completely new.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this in-between thing.
Yeah, I agree.
So did you draw some cards for us? Like, when it comes to will it be renewed for a second season, what do the cards say?
That's the Two of Wands. So it's like they're still debating, but yet.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, with a 2, it's kind of like, yeah, here's a 2. That's kind of on the nose with those bones. But I guess, yeah, if I remember the RWS card, it's the person holding the globe with like and looking out. So I'm guessing in that sense, it would mean like, yeah, they're still shopping around for someone to pick up this show.
Yeah.
I think they have a desire to continue. I don't doubt that at all. I just don't see how.
Me neither.
Because now Dean is not allowed to meddle anymore, so it wouldn't even make sense to have him as the narrator.
No. No, what they could do, though, is if Sam had a family, they could do something with that.
Yeah. But then again, I also don't know if Sam... I mean, the son did have the tattoo, and he probably knew about everything. So I don't know if Sam might have still worked cases here and there and kind of at least make sure that his son knows about everything. Because why else would he have the tattoo? But yeah. Oh, that's another thing with the tattoo. Like Lata and everyone else, they had the anti-Akrita tattoo, and then the queen just pressed her finger on it, and bam, Lata was possessed. So what was the point of that tattoo in the first place?
Yeah. I don't know. The queen, she was a hunter at one time, wasn't she?
Yeah. She was a hunter, and then she was, I think, cast out, and so she landed on the whole world of the Akrita, and they made her queen, and everything was fine.
Yeah. Which
but
does
yeah,
not
the whole
explain it, but yeah.
Yeah. It's like everything was dragged on for so long, and then the important parts were just like gone in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely. You just summed it up right there. That's it.
I mean, if you want to do some good storytelling, then give us the details.
Yeah.
Because the details are at the end of the day what we will remember and what we will think about as fans. You know?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
My best guess, it's not going to be picked up. I would be very surprised.
Me too.
So, yeah.
I don't think you'd want to do another series of Winchesters if it
no,
was.
No. Even if they did pick it up, I think we're done talking about this.
Yeah.
The only reason why I would watch it is to see Carlos and if any of the other supernatural characters come back. But other than that, like, I don't care about this version of John and Mary. To me, they're absolutely boring. They're completely beige. If you want to put a color on it, they're the color beige. You know, Carlos, he's like all the different colors, and even Lata is way more colorful than Mary. And like Carlos and Lata were supposed to be supporting characters, and they took over the show, and that just shows that there's no point in this.
Even Ada with her earth magic and the potential with that, you know.
Yeah, and having that half Jin son and things like that. Like those lives have been more interesting and more, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, they did like the one interesting thing that I thought was like when they gave us the backstory of Mary and John with like PTSD and all that kind of stuff, but it was in one episode and then it was done with. I mean, John mentioned like, yeah, maybe I need therapy, and that he's been doing like meditation with Lata. So he was trying to work on it, but Mary never worked on any of her issues. No. She never did meditation. She was still screwed up from having someone give her a knife at the age of 5 years old and say, hey, yeah, there's a monster under your bed. So here's a knife, kill it. Yeah. So yeah, it's just no.
Yeah.
I guess we're done. That's there's nothing more to say. So, and the one thing that I really appreciated when they brought Baby back, they used the original license plate, which was also the one that Dean had when he was actually in heaven. So they did, at that point, at least had some continuity.
Yeah.
but that's about it.
And it was nice seeing, them in the last episode for
Yeah.
5 to 10 minutes, if that.
Yeah.
So we waited
But,
all that time.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Okay. Well, thanks for everyone who was watching this with us, who was joining in on the conversation. And yeah, let us know if you like the Winchesters, if you wanted to be picked up or not. And otherwise, just see you in another video again, I guess. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.